So just like season 4 episode 7 of The Flash, this season with episode 7 we got Cicada's flashbacks and we know exactly why he became the person he is today. And this episode of The Flash was honestly the most Flash-like episode to me this season so far, and let's get into the reasons why in this review and breakdown. What is up, species? Welcome to my Flash Season 5 Episode 7 review and breakdown, and I am absolutely exhilarated to talk about this episode. And I know somebody's going to point it out there saying, Boba, stop saying this every single week. Well, I guess I haven't said it every week, but quite a few episodes this season I've said that this is my favorite episode so far of the season, and that's a good thing. If I'm saying that every other or every other episode, that means this season's rocking, right? Compared to last season at least. This episode was everything I had hoped for. And we've got next week's episode, which the trailer looks amazing for, but watch out for my trailer breakdown later on today. But seriously, as I said in the intro of this video, this episode of The Flash was literally the most Flash-like episode to me in a long time. I think that this episode just included a lot of emotional weight, a lot of cool Flash-like elements, and when you tie those together, in a nutshell, that makes the perfect Flash episode for me. But anyway, guys, before I get into this review and breakdown and talk about all the specifics, if you want to see more videos just like this, why not subscribe to the channel? And if you do go on to like it and you really enjoyed this episode just like me, why not hit that like button to show your support for the content and the show? So right at the beginning of this episode, I really like how they teased us with this and then linked it straight into the flashbacks. We saw Cicada visiting Grace in hospital, and Barry, since, you know, Ralph and Cecile last episode, figured that whole thing out, which massively helped Team Flash pinpoint how to find Cicada. And Barry actually went to the very room, and that goddamn doctor got in the way. And this led us into the flashbacks of this episode, which I thought were really good. So what I'm going to do now is talk about all of the flashbacks at once and then move on to the rest of the stuff in the episode. So as I thought, guys, from the previous episode, we saw that Orlin's house, or should I say Orlin's cousin's house, because we learned in this flashback or in the flashback scenes that his cousin said he could like use it if he did it up, which is pretty cool. But anyway, in that family photo, it wasn't Cicada there. And we learned that Grace went to Cicada because his sister passed away. Now I really like, and we kind of got the vibe from this from the trailer, where the voiceover in the trailer said, I know we didn't get off to the best start. And this is what gave these flashbacks in this episode and made you relate to the villain very well, because, you know, their relationship started off a bit rocky. Cicada basically loathes himself, doesn't look after himself, has, you know, like old, you know, rotting food in the house. Grace wakes up, wants breakfast. What does he give her? Like a few days old Chinese. So I think he does kind of feel bad, but we do see him on the phone trying to get rid of her because, you know, he's the next of kin and he has to look after her, but he doesn't want a kid to look after. And then throughout this episode, we see how Cicada's behavior and the way he lives his life is impacting Grace. You know, she starts swearing at school, and then like he's like, you can't do that kind of thing. But then they start to turn it around a little bit, and then I think it jumps a year into the future, and then Cicada's like life has completely changed because of Grace. I love how this episode just showed how Orlin wanted to get his life together. It went from a guy's life that was barely worth living, not looking after himself, to completely terraforming it in a way. You could see the bonds that was being created between him and Grace, and how what Grace was doing for him as well. Not only was he providing care for her and, you know, just gonna give her a good life even though her parents are gone, she was doing the exact same for him, and you could argue possibly saved his life, because who knows where Cicada would have ended up in life if he had never have got Grace. He would have just kept living, kept drinking, kept not really looking after himself. But in that really sweet moment between Cicada and Grace, I think it was like in a carnival-y kind of place, you know, he was buying her multiple ice creams. It was like a year anniversary from since he wanted to get his shit together, and that's when the Age of Enlightenment happened. That's when the satellite started falling and everything went wrong. And I think everyone gathered that's how Cicada got created. You know, obviously the dagger was stuck in him, a part of the satellite. Grace got knocked out and she's in a coma and she suffered massive brain hemorrhages. The doctor has even said, you know, I'm not gonna lie to you, it would be extremely lucky if she woke up. What I loved about this episode and what they did last season with DeVoe, and, you know, they try to humanize the villain. Like, they show, yes, this guy is the villain of the season, the villain of The Flash, and will probably do some goddamn terrible things. But that doesn't mean that the most kind of normalish-esque person can turn into an absolute villain. I mean, The Flash have shown this before with Barry Allen himself, with the right motivations, or should I say the wrong ones, can become Savitar. You have a guy here who's taking his new daughter out to a carnival, buying her ice creams, living life reformed and then he's turned into Cicada, a freaking dagger wielding murderer. And it kind of brings me back to that kind of comic booky thing that I've always kind of fell in love with villains, in terms of like the Joker even, how it can just take one bad day, one thing to happen to turn the most sanest man alive into kind of lunacy, or just to, like in this term, completely change their lives and turn them into a villain like Cicada. Now, honestly, I think that Chris Klein's acting was really, really, really good in this. I know some people are like second guessing it every now and again, but what I will say is that I definitely feel like he acted better when he was like good guy, you know, all in, not actually Cicada, because when the dagger went in him, his voice went a bit raspy. I mean, fair enough, I guess. But from there on out, like that last shot where he was just smoldering to the camera when he wielded the dagger and his head was kind of coiling in smolder, I think those are slightly the overtop moments. I know it was meant to be like a villainous epiphany where he wants to kill the metahumans, but Cicada, all he does when he's not all in, like in these flashback moments, is smolder with a raspy kind of voice, you know, to the camera. And I just think that's a little bit over the top. But other than that, Chris Klein just did a fantastic job at acting the origin story of All In into Cicada. Now, my other favorite thing in this episode is what they did with Nora. Now, Nora, I really, really love this character. I know some people out there are saying, oh, there might not be much point to her, she's getting a bit boring. I completely disagree. Like, there's so much promise that we still have to find out with this character for the back half of the season. Like, who is she working with in the future? What is Sherloque got to take to Iris in the mid-season finale regarding Nora? You can't have this person do something amazing every single episode. So I can kind of see where people are coming from if she hasn't done so much in like the past couple of episodes or whatever. But I really think she's great. Jessica Parker Kennedy's acting this episode was fantastic. So obviously this episode she was struggling, just like the synopsis said as well, with the fact that she knows her father's still going to disappear in the future, and she's not really coping well with that. I mean, we had other moments in this episode that I really liked as well, such as the beginning, where Nora even apologizes for not getting to know how great her mother is. And this started, you know, Iris kind of started that moment where Nora started to think about all of this more, because they were talking about the Flash Museum, and I thought this was a really cool thing. So the Flash Museum is one of the great ways, or the only way, should I say, Nora got to know about her father, who was her hero growing up. Now, the Flash Museum doesn't include every detail, though. It doesn't include that some people died or didn't make it. You know, Ronnie didn't make it in that singularity, and this is what Iris and Nora were discussing, and she's like, wait, what? And then Iris pointed out, yeah, and then there was that time your father had to sacrifice himself to the Speed Force, and Nora was like gobsmacked by this, because the Flash Museum just flaunts how everything's amazing, Flash saved the day, whoop-be-doo. And so Nora's kind of had this realization that her dad could still go at any moment. Now, that moment in the episode where we, you know, slowly got introduced to the Weather Witch / Weather Wizard storyline was really, really cool. I had to say, like, Jessica Parker Kennedy's acting when Barry got struck by that lightning was brilliant. Like, oh man, I just love it. When she was holding her father in her arms and she was crying her eyes out, I totally get where she was coming from. Let alone the episodes that have been set up already have given us the context that, I mean, for crying out loud, she's traveled back to this time to be with her father. Her father literally died, you know, flatlined, and I thought it was really cool how she had to do like the Speed Force defibrillating on Barry, since her father seems to put himself on the line for other people whenever the opportunity may arise, which, you know, is quite potentially a frequent thing when you're the sole protector of Central City, really. Yeah, minus like Killer Frost vibe, blah blah blah, but you know, the Flash is the one who's going to take the fall, if anything. Now let's briefly go over to the Weather Witch / Weather Wizard storyline. So we actually had Weather Wizard return this episode, albeit he didn't really do too much, but Weather Witch, his daughter, wanted to kill him. Now, I knew, I was saying this for my trailer breakdown, because each trailer breakdown I do every week after my reviews, which should be up later by the way, and should be in the cards above if you're watching this a few hours after this is uploaded. I often read out the synopsis, right, and it said a powerful new meta. So I thought, well, how was she created if she's a meta? Like her father with the exact same powers. So I thought that it must be metatech, but then again, the synopsis said a powerful new meta. So you would have thought it would have mentioned metatech if she was only using metatech. But lo and behold, it was metatech that gave her these powers. She had a rod similar to her father's that, you know, was affected by dark matter, thus giving her essentially her father's powers. And yeah, she just wanted to kill her father this episode. I found her kind of like interesting. She wasn't obviously nearly as cool as like Weather Wizard from previous seasons, but what I will say is that the effects and the adventurousness of the Flash this episode with this villain, Weather Witch, was just absolutely brilliant. It was so comic booky. And this talk brings me back to the whole Nora and Barry thing, because obviously Nora and Barry were going up against Weather Witch. Consistently throughout the episode, she just wasn't happy, because she was even saying things like, I don't want to lose you again, and you don't seem to give a damn if you lose me, all because of your damn job. And Barry was like, where the hell is this coming from? You know how dangerous our job is. So when it came to the S.T.A.R Labs like lounge balcony scene where Barry was like, how long have you been holding that one? And she was like, only like my whole life kind of thing. I totally get it, like, because even though Nora doesn't have memories of her father when he, you know, disappeared in Crisis when she was like 2 or 3 years old, I loved this moment from Nora explaining to Barry that she grew up so angry that she didn't have a father, and she even admitted that she took it out on Iris sometimes growing up, and she ultimately, this kind of concluded in how she was mad at Barry, and that was kind of like the story of this episode. She's kind of mad at her father for always being the one to like rush into danger. You know what I'm going to say, in this moment, Nora, or should I say Jessica Parker Kennedy's acting was brilliant. I find emotional weight in The Flash the most alluring thing. Sure, everything else helps on my top list, which is time travel, flashy, comic booky moments and stuff like that, but emotional weight is what got me wrapped in this show. So when Jessica Parker Kennedy like sheds a tear on cue when she's talking about how she grew up without her father and this and that and the Flash Museum and blah 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 blah, it is exactly what I love about this show, especially with the amazing Flash backing soundtrack that they have. And I just feel like this story, and I've been saying this long since season 5 even began to air, that I feel like this is going to be such a bittersweet season, because no matter what happens, traveling back in time to know your father, and you know, what is it going to be like in the season finale of this? Is Nora going to disappear? Are they going to prevent Barry's death? If they do that, then that will rewrite this version of Nora and she'll be like kind of erased from I don't know. I just love what they're building up here, because no matter what, it's going to be, as I said, a bittersweet story with whatever way this ends. I doubt she's just going to run back into the future and everything's going to be exactly how it was. Even if that did happen though, it would be sad, because she's going to be running back to a future without her father in it. So I feel like this whole Nora and Barry storyline will always be engaging for me. But anyway, this kind of led to that resolution, or should I say the big fight with that freaking lightning tornado, which is so cool. This is what I mean by comic booky Flash moments. I loved it. They don't always do this all the time with big effects, and I felt like this was one of those moments. And it was slightly reminiscent, albeit not as cool as that season 1 Weather Wizard, like massive, you know, those effects, whether it's the tornado or the waves. But it felt kind of like that when Barry was having to become the human lightning rod. And that's when Nora was like, you know, I get it, you have to do this, because she looked behind her, saw all of these people who could potentially die, and she even explained afterwards that, yeah, I never want to feel like that again, because yeah, at the end of the day, you might be risking your life, but what are you going to do? Let all of these people die? Sometimes you just have to, as a hero, make that decision to carry on anyway and hope for the best, I guess. Other than that, little things in this episode that I enjoyed, of course, were like the Sherlock Wells going on about Thanksgiving moments, and then obviously we had Killer Frost at the end with Cisco and Sherloque, all kind of just like, yeah, like we're the thankless, and that's when Killer Frost popped out, and then she was like, well, who's coming to Thanksgiving? And then they all went back to Barry's house. It was a nice little neat and great ending to a fantastic episode, in my opinion. And then of course at the very end we had Team Flash have the realization, wait, what if, you know, Cicada wanted to spend, you know, Thanksgiving with Grace, you know, his loved one, and then of course they checked the CCTV, and this guy has been checking in on Grace mostly every night, including Thanksgiving, and now they know who he is. And this is all going to lead up to the 100th episode next week, where they travel back in time to stop Cicada in the future. And my god, does that trailer look amazing, so be sure to look out for my trailer breakdown on that. But this episode, if you couldn't tell, was fantastic for me. I don't know what else to say, because I'm going to keep repeating that, but I really enjoyed it. I think the season is doing great as it is. It's definitely better than season 4 for me so far. If they keep up with this momentum, honestly, it will be up there with season 1 and 2. It just will. There's no way to get around saying that, I feel, compared to like season 3 and season 4. Just pale into comparison to the past several episodes we've already got this season. But anyway, guys, let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. What did you think of this episode? Did you agree with anything I had to say, or did you disagree, or do you want to add even more thoughts that I may not have actually discussed in this breakdown? But thank you so much for watching, guys. Subscribe for more Flash videos just like this, and trailer breakdowns, you name it. Links, as always, are in the description down below to everything like Discord, my social media, Patreon, and everything like that. But thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you speedsters in the next video. Goodbye.